Welcome to E4 Electric live from Bangkok, Thailand, where I live. I have a pretty interesting show today. I was off last week because I could not talk. I just lost my voice. So we'll catch up today. But today I'm going to talk about this happened earlier this month, and I thought it was pretty big. I actually there were other electric car publications that picked this news up. I wish it was bigger than what everybody reported, but essentially the editor in chief of Electrek, which is the largest electric car news publication, has always been, and he's always been in charge of it. Basically, and he was, I should mention that he was one of the biggest Tesla fans back for the longest time. And he has announced that he sold all of his Tesla stock because he does no longer believe in the company. And I don't want to put words in his mouth because we're going to review the article right here live. So I guess we're just going to do a little reaction video. Um, Meanwhile, let me know where you're watching me from, what kind of electric car you're driving or dreaming about. So we'll get that going here in the live chat. So now, but also let me tell you a little bit about Fred because I had some personal experience hanging out with him actually. Now Fred was one of the early fans of Tesla, not as early as me. I became a fan of Tesla in 2012. I bought a Tesla in 2012, and I bought this original stock at $99. So I think pretty much all of these people who claim that they're big Tesla fans, and I know they are or they were, they have not been around as long. So I was the original Tesla fanboy, and unfortunately, it is something that I have pretty much almost turned around. Like I can't believe that I don't like. I literally recommend that people don't buy Teslas when they ask me what kind of car, what kind of electric car they should buy. So it is unfortunate, but if you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably know that. Let's talk about Fred. So now I do have to say that Tom Malogny of State of Charge aside, I would say Fred is by far the best electric car journalist and a writer um, in the electric car community. I always enjoy reading his articles. He's very knowledgeable, and back in the day, actually, and I don't know why. The Electric has always been a huge publication, definitely always huge compared to my channel, even in my channel's prime. And I remember I was talking to him and I said, Fred, are you going to this? There was a Kia Niro EV unveiling in Santa Cruz, California. By the way, my most favorite place on earth, as much as I like Thailand. But Santa Cruz, California has always been my my heart is always there. So, and he said, like, nobody invited me. And I think that's when I kind of brought an idea to him, which is, I don't understand why, that you should go to media drives and experience these cars yourself. These trips are actually pretty awesome. You get to drive the cars before everybody else. You get to talk to people who have designed them. A lot of times there are executives there, sometimes the CEO of the company, all that stuff. So he basically said, "Well, can you get me invited?" I asked Kia. I said, "Guys, I don't understand why you did not invite him." But he's like, this is the biggest publication. So they have invited Fred, and me and him were a lot of times they partner you up with another media person, just so you're not bored driving for 3 or 4 hours. And so me and Fred partnered up. Here's Fred driving the Kia Niro EV with a background of Santa Cruz. This is me interviewing him. And by the way, the pier behind it, and this is the Santa Cruz beach. I have had such amazing times there without Fred, without Fred. But that's why I chose that background because it was really dear to me. As a matter of fact, as I'm looking at this right now, I rarely miss America. Okay, but when I look at that, I was like, oh, I miss America, Santa Cruz, California. All right, so now I do have to say that a lot of people, I would even say majority of people, other media people in the industry, do not like Fred. Fred is a bit rough around the corners. I personally have never had big issues, though I've had a couple of, you know, incidents where I don't really want to talk about it, but like, yeah, he was a bit of a dick a couple of times. But overall, I think I got along with him better than most. And also, I like the owner, Seth, the owner of Electrek as well. Seth is actually a very nice guy. Also, by the way, I haven't talked. I've seen him in a long time because obviously, you guys know I don't go to media events anymore. Well, because I got banned from most of them, right? So it was like whenever you go to like this Kia Niro EV event, you're very excited about this because it's the first electric car. They're excited. You don't know what's going to happen. If they're gonna screw up the manufacturing, they're gonna screw this. They're gonna screw customers. At that time, none of that was in play. So everybody was excited. I was doing always positive videos from the heart, honestly. So, but then once I started criticizing them because majority of the EV companies, unfortunately, were screwing up, and Tesla was definitely on top of that list. Little by little, I got banned. Anyway, so now I do have to say that at that time, Fred was, and maybe this is one of the reasons he didn't even think about going and testing other cars, because just like any Tesla fan, he was just basically just driving a Tesla, right? So anyway, we spent some good time together. And one thing that I have noticed, because Electrek always had this breaking news from Tesla, like inside information, right? And at that time, Tesla actually had a PR department, and ahead of a PR department was this very cute blonde. Her name was Keely, and Keely was probably one of the worst people I've ever met in the industry. I can tell you some really bad stories. As a matter of fact, I did share one story where Tesla actually went after me and made me take down a video, which I reposted now. But at that time, yeah, they like literally blackmailed me. So anyway, so as I was driving around Santa Cruz with Fred, I just consistently saw his phone blowing up with her name on it. Now, by the way, if this happened yesterday, I wouldn't have shared it because it's kind of personal information. Though it's not like he's ever told me, like, Alex, hey, this is kind of, and not that, by the way, I don't think that would have been big news that he has a major connection in Tesla, and the fact that it's their PR head of PR kind of makes sense. So, and so his phone was just, completely blowing up, and he would share some of this, and I don't mind sharing it because I absolutely despise, you know, Keely. So, and by the way, once she left Tesla, she didn't. I knew she could not work in the same industry again because everybody hated her except for Fred at that time. So she ended up in a very different company. I forget what it is. Anyway, so I could see that she's just blowing up his phone, like not him calling her. And one of the things that she like was like she was literally asking advice from him. Like Hannity on Fox News, like Trump will call him for his advice how to be president sometimes, right? That was kind of what was happening. And I'm like, whoa, and by the way, I don't even think that was a bad thing. I think, running some ideas by people who know a lot about what other people think is not a bad idea. So anyway, so their connection was very, very, very tight. And like I said, he was a big fan. He bought a Tesla. I don't know how many Teslas he bought. He was officially a Tesla stockholder, which, by the way, that's one thing that I just not cool with. If you are a journalist, if you are, especially news journalist, you should not hold stock in any of these companies. I never have. I sold my Tesla stock, but as I told, well, so I told you a few weeks ago that I wanted to actually short Tesla because I'm no longer a news guy. I don't think I am, and I couldn't because I now live in a foreign country and that's not allowed, at least with the trading house that I use, which is kind of one of the biggest ones. But I realized there is like like we call it ETF, EFT, yeah, that you can buy that's like Tesla Q. So and I had like $700 laying around. I've noticed in cash in my trading account. I was like, you know what? Let's experiment. I mean, might as well. So we'll see. I am up right now, by the way, with my money, but we'll see what happens when they announce the results, which I think they're going to be disastrous. So the delivery results, especially in the US and Europe. So but overall, Fred was a huge fan. And by the way, rightfully so. Tesla in the beginning was an amazing company. Elon Musk was an amazing innovator and a leader. He was humble, he was kind. He was promoting electric cars and, essentially suggesting, which now we know is not really true, but that he really doesn't care if even Tesla survives as long we all start, this successfully switch to the green energy. So it was all really, really good. And at some point, I started things started to turn around. And I even remember that moment when things started to turn around for me. And I don't know if it was the same thing with Fred, but basically, I remember Elon Musk canceled a Model X reservation of a journalist who criticized it. And I was like, because I was a huge Elon Musk fan, and I'm like, wait, well, that sounds kind of petty. So that was very unfortunate. So the fact lately, Fred has been, more unbiased about Tesla, and I think his reports started to be relatively balanced. He would report on positive and negative things about Tesla, but I would say in the last year, his reporting has definitely turned negative. And not that I blame him, because really there are very little good news coming out of Tesla in the last year. Almost everything has gone wrong. Elon Musk has turned into this, lunatic, and uh, so now I don't know what took Fred so long, because Elon has already tried blackmailing, and successfully so, shareholders into reapproving his huge pay package, by essentially, I don't understand how he's not in prison for this, but essentially for he basically said that he's going to take AI from Tesla, transfer it to the company that he started a few months earlier, and leave. So I don't know how that is not even. I'm sure some, they'll look into it, but a lot of times I feel like he gets away with murder. I mean, the other day he kind of suggested that people should, like, he was, I don't know if you've seen that tweet, but he essentially, even Secret Service and FBI opened an investigation into Elon Musk suggesting that somebody should try shooting Biden or Harris, which is ridiculous. And by the way, he removed that tweet, which tells you that when Elon Musk actually backs out of a tweet, I mean, he's got a lot of nasty bullshit tweets out there that he's been criticized for, over and over and over again, and he doesn't remove them. So for him to remove it, I don't know if it was an order from Secret Service or FBI. It's amazing that he actually has a security clearance from the government and government contracts. Um, uh, I hope all his government contracts are taken away from him. They probably won't, because I think like rules don't apply to him, but they should, because when you suggest that the sitting president should be an VP, should be you know uh, 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 um, assassinated. It's I can never pronounce the word. I know. But anyway, it is what it is. So Fred finally quit. Now I don't know why he didn't quit earlier. I think just even as a shareholder, I think you should have noticed that Elon was working against the best interest of Tesla, and essentially for just his own interest. When he endorsed one of the presidential candidates, that was also essentially working against Tesla, because and their polls now show that he lost a lot of orders from liberals and Democrats who don't want to give money to him, because essentially it's like contributing to Trump's campaign, a candidate they obviously do not like, or maybe even hate. So that's kind of the journey that I had with Fred, and the journey that Fred had with Tesla. So now let's take a look at the article and the reasons. So we'll do a little reaction. So this is the article, and let's scroll through this together. By the way, I do see a super chat, and I'll get back to it pretty soon. Okay, thank you, Nate. All right. He basically talks about how he invests into stock, which I think is completely inappropriate for journalists, but whatever. And he talks a little bit about his support for electric vehicles, and the vision that he supported Elon through many years, and indeed that vision was great. So he kind of reminisce about that, but um let's see, managed to force the rest of the industry to invest hundreds of dollars. Yeah, he talks about how like here he talks about how Tesla essentially dragged everybody else into the electric car game. Let's see. I just wanted to see. Okay, so he's talking about obviously the shift. Um, that's how a lot of people he either fired or basically ran away. That most of the talent has ran away from Tesla because they don't want to work for him or he doesn't want to work with them. So Tesla just doesn't have as many talent people as they used to. Um, so he's talking about the blackmailing shareholders into reapproving the package. Um, essentially, if you watch my channel, he's almost like he's kind of had the same journey as me, just a little bit later. He talks about Twitter and how he told people to go fuck themselves and screwed his advertising opportunity. He's talking about it, hiding FSD details and lying about that. So just a lot in the article where he kind of talks about his reasoning. But um, this is let's see. I'm trying to find the part, and I think it came here. I probably already missed it a little bit. Um, where he talks about that what he kind of no longer supports and why he pulled out of the stock. Now, the vision of Tesla's early leadership, I mean, it's true. The way Elon started with Tesla and took over and saved it, along with many other people, and this is where he kind of lists the talent that he was supporting. He also talked about other people who supported Tesla earlier. Obviously, Daimler, who saved Tesla from bankruptcy. I think they were 1 hour away, and Toyota that invested with the factory that they got and still going in Fremont, California. The support from the government and of course the passionate owners like I used to be, you know, and so forth and so forth. So you know what? I thought I saw exactly where. Oh yeah, so he now what has apparently turned him around is the shareholder blackmail part. He also talked about selling tens of billions of dollars worth of Tesla shares to buy Twitter. Um, you know, eh, now I agree with this, even though a lot of people forgot about this. But he did challenge to like a physical fight with Mark Zuckerberg, which is insane on so many different levels, right? Um, and that's right. Musk really did lose interest in Tesla. I would say even more than a year, but yeah, running Twitter and SpaceX, I think, kind of took over. I don't know if Boring Company is that much of a priority. Um, and he also talks about how he just keeps firing people, and of course, the firing the supercharging team that was absolutely fucking insane. And I did not know this one, guys. Finally, he canceled the stock options for Tesla employees. I did not know that. Like, just so you know, like in Silicon Valley, for the longest time, uh, and a lot of companies do that now, right? If you're an employee, you can vest into a few stock options, and I've had that opportunity as well when I worked for some of the Silicon Valley companies, and the Tesla did the same thing. They if you work for Tesla, you're part of the vision. Elon obviously makes everybody work very, very hard. If you're part of the vision, you get to invest into the success of the company, and that's like quite normal and good. I did not know that he just canceled that, but still wants people to work as hard as they do. And what's even more amazing that they actually do work for him. I don't know if it's a resume thing. Man, it's getting kind of hot here. Um, I don't know if it's a resume thing or whatever, but it is unbelievable that people have actually continue working for him despite of the abuse, like the biggest racial discrimination lawsuit in California's history is still pending in Tesla. There's a bunch of lawsuits going after the lies of FSD. I genuinely don't understand why shareholders are still trusting Elon to lead this company uh, in the future. I, I think the big moment is going to happen when they announce the delivery numbers, and I predict that they're going to be one of the worst ones ever for Tesla, and then we're going to see what happens to stock. Now, I don't understand stock market. I'm not going to lie, and so I've seen companies announce complete horrible news and the stock would go up. And I've seen companies announce something very exciting and new and the stock would go down. I think it always reminds me the story that my dad told me. My dad in the 80s was one of the first AI people to do artificial intelligence. One of the things that he's developed is he was able to predict the giant oil fields just by looking at the map and running some data. And he published a book at like 1985 by a pretty big Soviet Union at that time, Soviet book publishing house. And over the years, when because I mean, he never thought he would make any money off of this. So he just basically pointed out where he thought all of the giant oil fields would be. And over the years, one after another, they were discovered. So my dad, once we moved to America, he decided, you know what, like, how can I make money on this? Obviously, like, companies did not want to hire him because in order to hire someone like him, you would have to fire your entire R&D department. And in order for my dad to get in, he would have to be approved by R&D department. You see the problem? It's like applying for a job of a secretary where you have to hand your resume to the secretary to get in, right? Okay, so he was thinking like, how can you do that? And he realized like, well, why don't I look at where the giant oil fields are that haven't been discovered yet? And I'm going to see what company buys land there to drill for oil, and then I'll buy their stock. And then once they find oil, and usually there's a billions and billions of dollars in oil, obviously this stock will skyrocket, and at least I'll make some money. And he did just that. He saw that one of the spots where he predicted there would be a giant oil field was purchased by a oil company, and he immediately invested into that oil company, and they very quickly found that giant oil field, like my dad predicted, and they announced it publicly, and their stock went down the next day. So that story always stuck with me because it just shows you the bullshit of the stock market. So I don't know if Tesla's stock will go down if the numbers are going to be disastrous. I know Elon will try to sell the robo taxis. I'm assuming he delayed that event specifically to time it so it coincides with the really bad sales numbers because he just knew. He knows. So, and I know the solar part of the company is doing actually quite well. It took a while, so maybe those numbers are going up, and investors might think, well, maybe it's not a car company after all. I know they're selling that bullshit for the second time around. The first time was when they bought Solar City. So we'll see. We will see if Elon is basically bulletproof and shareholders know it. And at that time, maybe I should just quit this business. Well, no, that I mean, I admit I don't know anything about the stock, but I'll keep you updated about my you know tiny little Tesla Q investment because I'm actually quite curious to see what's going to happen to it. So, in conclusion, I do want to say that this is a big deal. Not only Fred is a very knowledgeable person, not only he has tracked and pretty much knows everything that ever happened to and with electric cars over the last 12, 13 years. you know it takes a lot, I think, from someone who was inspired by Elon Musk, and I'm kind of probably talking for both me and Fred, inspired by Elon Musk and supported him early by investing into stock, by buying his cars. Well, a lot of people thought we were idiots, that we were going to buy cars that were going to go, belly up, and we'll end up like Fisker customers twice around, or Lordstown customers, or whatever, Saturn customers. And we still took a risk on him. Like, I mean, I've never bought $100,000 car before, and by the way, you had to buy it like there was no like lease options. So you had to buy it. And I gladly did it because I wanted, like, not only I wanted the car, but I also wanted to support the cause. I mean, at the end of the day, I can tell you, if it wasn't for people like me buying into this, earlier on, no one would drive a Tesla right now because, like I said, they got very close to bankruptcy. And the fact that many of us have bought it earlier on and there were some revenues coming in, probably made a huge difference, if not all the difference in the world, actually. So I'm proud that I took the journey, and it's kind of interesting to see the same thing kind of happening here in Thailand. I was an MC and the discussion panel moderator for one of the local events here for the Department of Transportation, I think, and highways. And one of my biggest question to the panel was, and it was an international panel of quite great smart people, is can Thailand learn all of the mistakes and triumphs that we've seen America and Europe go through, so Thailand doesn't have to repeat all these mistakes. Now, Thailand is in a very interesting position because a lot of cars that we have here are Chinese cars, and Chinese cars are amazing right now. Of course, I'm talking about electric cars. I actually saw yet another one. I didn't even know about this one. This is a in partnership with Huawei. Um, and it's called Avatar 11. I saw it in person for the first time today. I was Ubering to my soccer game, and I was like, "Oh, it's a beautiful car." Oh, and I had an Uber car that was one of the I don't remember the brand, but it's just one of many Chinese brands coming in here. So Thailand has a great sort of advantage. But there were a lot of it's great to see this kind of electric car revolution uh, coming through the streets of Bangkok. And unlike in America, Thai people are not like political. There is no like, oh, you're a Democrat, you're for electric cars. Well, I'm a Republican, so I'm against electric cars, right? None of that nonsense. People go like, oh, electric cars. Look, they're wonderful. They're beautiful. I don't have a lot of people told me that they just bought them to save money on gasoline, or they just like the way they drive. They like the way they look. The prices are very competitive here. You can buy a BYD for like 15, $20,000 equivalent. So and there are no tariffs on Chinese cars here in Thailand. Like there are major tariffs on like Mercedes and BMW and so forth. So I really think that this was a big news. I really think that to have one thing you talk, right, one thing you talk or write or whatever, another thing you put your money where your mouth is, right. I wanted to do that with shorting Tesla stock, but I couldn't. I really wanted to, but in this case, and Fred knows, he got a lot of hate for it. Of course, people like Warren and others jumped down his throat. But I thought this was a big deal. All right. Well, guys, it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm glad I was able to. I thought I was only good for 1 hour, but I guess I was good for two, but no more than that. I will, as always, cut this into little pieces as I was talked about different issues and repost it for you guys to rewatch. Well, not for you guys since you already watched, but people who haven't. And I'm gonna go to Cambodia. Hopefully, come back, and I will see you um, next week. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And this was fun. I know I am halfway asleep now, but thanks for hanging out with me. We had over 100 people like consistently watching this at all times. So that's kind of cool. Thanks so much. And I will see you next time. And remember to stay charged.